In White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, who joins us from the White House complex. Good morning to you, Kayleigh.
Good morning.
I see on the president's public schedule, he does have a video conference with America's governors today to try to figure out what's going on. You know, people from all across the country are looking in. This is the time we look to our leader. We want this to stop. How does the president fix this?
Yeah, this president has been very clear that we need law and order in this country. He's taken extraordinary action, talking about activating the National Guard, as we saw happen in Minnesota, criminalizing interstate travel that is geared towards inciting violence, making sure that those individuals are prosecuted, labeling Antifa as a domestic terrorist entity that will be prosecuted as such. This president's taken bold action. This is the law and order president. Going back to his convention speech, he's always been about law and order in this country, and he's taking every single possible action to ensure that our streets are safe. Because what this does, this demeans the peaceful protesters who have a legitimate grievance when we see angry mob mentality take over and those horrific images of businesses burning and fires in the streets of this country.
Kayleigh, I know many are asking the president to please give an Oval Office address on these riots because our country is just experiencing so much chaos right now. Have there been conversations with him about that? Do you think he'll say yes to that?
The president has addressed this repeatedly. So I looked, and going back to the first day he saw this video, he has addressed the absolutely horrific video of George Floyd. He's routinely addressed, both in his remarks less than 48 hours ago, the issue of law and order in our streets. He's issued several statements. But here's the thing, Ainsley. A national Oval Office address is not going to stop Antifa. What's going to stop Antifa is action. And this president is committed to acting on this. He has several meetings pertaining to that today. And that's his focus right now, is acting and keeping our streets safe.
So, Kayleigh, I just a quick statement. I mean, obviously, we watch Antifa and some of their acts, and we've seen this before. When there was a time in which we weren't all wearing masks, they just were. Now we all are. Mark Bray, who wrote a book on Antifa in 2017, pretty much the only one I've seen out there, says, quote, "The idea that Antifa is masterminding what's happening over the last few days, if you know anything about this subject, is ludicrous." Is this an amorphous organization instead of just an ideology? And are we giving them too much credit?
I don't think so. You know, look, when you look at the Twitter feed of Antifa, you see that they are directing some of this. When you look at the horrific graffiti that I see in the streets, it's about overturning capitalism and really crude messages. They are certainly behind this. A.G. Barr has mentioned to that effect, and so has Ambassador O'Brien. And criminalizing, making sure that they are labeled as domestic terrorists is so important because, as I noted at the top, there are legitimate, peaceful protesters out there, and I've seen them. I saw a video here in D.C. where, you know, a violent rioter was cobbling the street in an effort to throw bricks at police officers, and it was peaceful protesters that stopped this individual. So we've got to discern and distinguish this violent Antifa from the protesters who do have a legitimate grievance.
Sure. Where are they getting all those bricks? I'm just kind of wondering about that. Of course, yesterday, the President of the United States did say that he wanted to designate Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. But Kayleigh, the president also said that Democrats are not tough enough on the violent protesters and the troublemakers and whatnot. Why did he designate the Democrats are not tough enough?
Yeah, I think when you look at some of the befuddling actions, like right here in D.C., the mayor of D.C. didn't issue a curfew until 11 p.m. Well, guess what? At 10 p.m., you had St. John's Church burning. Several other cities had curfews at 4 p.m., at 5 p.m., at 6 p.m., and some of the actions are really not tough enough, as the president noted, particularly with the mayor here in D.C. And when you look at these horrific actions, you know, I just want to note how completely wrong-headed the fact is that you had the Veterans Affairs Department defaced and the word veteran completely spray painted off the building. You had the Lincoln Memorial defaced, a beautiful symbol of a president who overcame some of the deepest racial divides in our country. And to have those institutions defaced really undermines the message. We're targeting Antifa. It's very important. And the president's also going to put an onus on Democrat mayors to be as tough as he has been.
All right, so Bill Barr said that the DOJ is going to be using its network of 56 regional FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force to ID these criminal organizers and instigators. How are they going to be able to do that?
Yeah, so this task force will be looking into each and every incident that comes our way, looking at it through a domestic terrorism lens using Title 18, Section 2331. That's a big portion of the domestic terrorism statute, and it basically will give us broad investigatory power to investigate these activities and to ensure that the individuals who are looting and the individuals who are Antifa and who are behind the violent actions we're seeing and the burning down of some of America's buildings, as we saw here, St. John's, a beautiful historical monument burning, that these will be prosecuted under the fullest extent of the law.
Kayleigh, it's hard to imagine, but it seems like George's death and the pandemic have been overwhelmed by these riots. In wake of the riots, has the president talked to maybe some of these governors, like Governor of New York, with sadly 56 deaths, but dramatically down from its peak, to release the lockdown and allow some people to defend their own businesses or get back into business so we're economically not flat on our back, along with what goes on with these protests that's destroying these cities?
Yeah, the president wants to reopen this country. He's been clear about that. I spoke to him about half a dozen times yesterday and talked to him that he's been on the phone with governors. He is making sure that our country's reopening, but that we do so in a way that protects our streets, keeps our streets safe. It's inexcusable what we've been seeing play out across the country.
Right. And you know, Kayleigh, that church that they burned yesterday down in the basement is just 1 block from where you're standing right now. And all the violence, a lot of it is just outside the gates. How freaked out are some of the people who work at the White House about what's going on just over the fence?
Look, we feel very protected. Secret Service is remarkable, and they've been doing remarkable work. So we feel safe here behind the White House gates. But look, we want America to be safe. We want to come together as one country. We're better than this. America's stronger than this. America is about unity. I saw beautiful videos of police officers and protesters hugging. That is what defines us as a country, not the burning of St. John's and the looting and the rioting we've seen. So we're coming together as a country, and that's our singular focus here at the White House as we get back to work.
Kayleigh, thanks so much for joining us this morning.